Hi, hello. My name is Grace Ashengla Angulu, and today we're going to be talking about my physical education term project. So to start off this presentation, I want you to think about one of the most physically demanding job out there. So I know you're probably thinking about construction workers, pro athletes, and or firefighters. Yeah, you're right. But there's also a massive group of people that work in one of the most brutal occupational environments in modern medicine. And who are those? I think you probably know. So we're talking about the paramedics. So imagine being fast asleep at 3 a.m. and minutes later you are carrying a 100 kg patient down a narrow stairwells with absolutely no warm-up. So today I'm breaking down a core concept from my term project at Cyprus Altimbashi University, and the title is going to be like physical readiness and musculoskeletal injury prevention for paramedics. Thus we are looking at the actual exercise behind how the EMS personnel can survive their jobs, protect their body, and perform under extreme stress. So to break down this presentation, we're going to first of all talk about the four pillars of physical readiness. So in my term project, I break functional readiness down into four primary fitness components. If a paramedic is weak in even one of this, like both the patient safety and their own career is at serious risk. So moving on, we'll talk about the first point, which is muscular strength. So between the patient and the stretcher, paramedics like they regularly lift loads exceeding 150 kg. So you need a massive lower body power, squat, hamstring, glutes to lift safely. And then you also need upper body strength to sustain high quality CPR. What does upper body strength has to do with CPR? Yes, even though you're on your knee performing the CPR, you're going to be on the patient and performing this. You're moving your upper body. So to get a quality CPR, you have to be ready for that. Moving on, we're going to talk about the cardiorespiratory endurance. So EMS calls are very unpredictable and they can last for hours. So there's a data that also shows that if a paramedic cardiovascular capacity or VO2 max drop below 42 ml per kg per minute, their operational performance crashes and they begin to have cognitive error. So moving down to point 3, which we're going to be talking about flexibility and mobility. So the paramedics are constantly conjuring their body into cramp or quad position inside the ambulance or on the floor. They have a tight hips, stiff spine, and these are the recipe for acute injuries. And then the fourth part, we're talking about neuromuscular coordination. This one has to do with mind and muscle coordination. Like you can maintain perfect balance and uneven terrain, while simultaneously executing fine motor tasks like performing an IV. Imagine you are in the ambulance trying to move the patient, but while moving the patient you're trying to start an IV line. The ambulance is kind of shaking or something, so you need to coordinate your mind to your muscle, you be at a position and try to get the IV from the patient. And in order not to harm them too, you need to have the skills. So then moving to section 2. Part 2. So the brutal truth about the brutal truth is that paramedics have astronomical rates of neuromuscular injuries, and especially in the lower back, shoulders and knees. So when lifting a patient, usually a paramedic is forced to bend, twist, like fast. Everything is just like fast, and which is a nightmare for the spine. Like, you know, fast movement, uncontrolled movement, like, you know, it's a nightmare for the spine. So how do we fix this? So forget about traditional bodybuilding machines. Paramedics need like core stabilization, like the McGill tree. You know, we talk about the coil up, the plank, and dog bed. Yes, and we're also talking about functional training like trap bar, deadlift, suitcase carries, and single leg lounge that directly mimic real world emergency scene. Yeah, so like, you know, all this kind of exercise are the kind of exercise that is like, you know, you are in an emergency setting. So, you know, like the suitcase carrier, the single leg lounge, whatsoever, like, you know, when you do it, like, you know, when you pull, it's like you being in an emergency scene. But these are exercises that train you for those kind of environments. So now we're going to be talking about, like, you know, beating high operational stress. So EMS is literally a death or life environment when you're constantly flooded with adrenaline and then the stress hormone cortisol. So your brain gets fatigue, your reaction time slows down, and you risk making medical error. But here is a cool part. Exercise acts as a biological buffer against stress. So, you know, like, you know, it's a buffer. Like, you know, when you regularly exercise, like, you get to reduce your cortisol level, you know, do other things, and so on and so forth. So regular aerobic training, like, that's the kind of training that has to do with like stuff, so actually protects and grows your hippocampus. So yeah, when we talk about the hippocampus, we're talking about the parts of the brain that manage memories and emotion, which helps prevent burnout and PTSD. Yeah, a lot of paramedic has, you know, PTSD. Even not paramedic, even we as individuals, like, we go through PTSD from things we've seen and stuff, and so on and so forth. But aerobic training helps with that. So adding, and it helps, like, you know, train you for what's coming and what has come. Yeah, so adding mind and body practice like yoga, you know, they helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest system, so your body can finally recover after a brutal 12-hour shift. So now we move to part 4. Like, you know, a lot of EMS services, they work like 12-hour shift, 17-hour shift, 24-hour shift. So like, you know, and a lot of people will be like, oh, there's no time, you know, for me to exercise and whatsoever. But here there is so I've compiled some things based on research and stuff, and I created a 4-day, you know, workout routine that can be done, you know. So, and then, you know, it has to do with the high intensity interval training, which is the HIIT, HIIT, and Tabata. So also in this case, the Tabata comes in, and studies have shown that, you know, 30 minutes of high intensity interval training, you know, exercise per week, you know, just 30 minutes of that can give you the same cardiovascular benefit as the 150 minutes of traditional cardio. Yes, and also a 4 minutes of Tabata protocol has like 20 seconds of maximum effort, 10 seconds of rest using body weight, squat, kettlebell, you know, swing can literally be done inside the station or during downtime between call, and it is fast, it requires zero equipment, and it replicates the exact explosive burst of energy that you need for an emergency call. Yes, so at the end of the day, physical fitness isn't just a personal, you know, hobby for EMS workers. It is an ethical and professional necessity for patient safety. Yes, so if you want to check out the exact 4-day shift friendly training program that I put together for this project, please, I want you to refer to the actual, you know, copy of this project. Yes, I've broke down the exercise routine, 4 days exercise routine, which also include the high intensity interval training I mentioned, and Tabata. Yeah, so like doing that will actually help EMS personnel. Yeah, so thank you so much. We've come to the end of this presentation, and I'm so glad that you're listening to this project. Thank you, and have a nice day.